It's been over 7 years since Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, and as such, it's also been over 7 years since I started my YouTube channel, as I mentioned in a community post a few days ago. And honestly, that just makes me wonder, where in the world did the time go? It really doesn't even feel like it's been 7 years, much less a quarter of my life since the game launched, but somehow here we are 7 entire years later. You know, this is a game that really does mean a lot to me, and one that I still consider probably my favorite game of all time. And since it has been some time since I've really had a chance to talk about this game, and years since the last Xenoblade 2 specific video, I figured I could make a quick video doing exactly that. So let's have a talk about Xenoblade 2 and my history with this game, and exactly why I love it so much even today. This isn't going to be a super cleanly edited retrospective type video or anything like that, as I'm kind of just talking late at night about my love for the game. Maybe we can say that for like the 8th year anniversary if I remember. But I hope you can stick around regardless as I play some of my favorite moments of the things I did in this game, or remember from over the years. Oh, and if you like Xenoblade, please be sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'd love to hit 100k, and I will definitely be making all sorts of guide and video content when Xenoblade X Definitive Edition comes out. Let's get into it. So, speaking of Xenoblade X, there's actually really humorous Discord posts around the time Xenoblade 2 was announced, where I was actually kind of really mad that this new game that was coming out was not going to be a sequel to Xenoblade X, and we were never going to get a follow-up on that cliffhanger, and that we're likely not going to have multiplayer. And I was really mad about the anime art style as well. So I was kind of one of those fans before the game came out, which is kind of really funny in hindsight, given that these days I just really love a bunch of anime RPGs and just in general really appreciate those types of art styles and kind of like them a lot more than other traditional and like more realistic looking art styles in general. So, yeah, I definitely made a complete 180 on that after the game came out, but it still makes a lot of these early posts really humorous to look back on and how I just wasn't really looking forward to or excited for the game at all. But I will say it was nice kind of going into the game blind, since it made me not really pay attention to trailers as much, so I was kind of unspoiled on basically everything that was going to happen. I didn't even know about Mythra when the game came out, so that was kind of cool, just kind of experiencing a lot of those moments blind at the very least. And obviously, just kind of this game is just kind of more to be one of my favorite games ever, just over time. When I first played through the game, I don't know if I immediately thought it was going to be my favorite game ever, but just kind of over time especially, that just kind of worked out that way. I think a lot of that just had to do with like the community and just like me making content in general and everything just doing well, and me just kind of getting more and more involved in that. And all the content they added to the game over time that just kind of increased the quality of life and increased the amount of content the game had, and just kind of really gave me a greater appreciation for the stories and characters overall. Like, this channel actually started, kind of out of spite, which is really funny. Like, the first video I ever made on this channel was just kind of a solo of a Tyranitar with Mythra, and the only reason I ever made this is because I was kind of having an argument with a dude in a Discord server about if Mythra or Zenobia was like a better blade, and one of my arguments was just kind of like, well, Mythra is like one of the only blades that can solo this giant super boss really in like a reasonable amount of time or something like that, and can do it faster than Zenobia or something like that, and yeah, this kind of led me to like go to Best Buy and buy a $200 Elgato solely so I could like be spiteful to this guy and like prove him wrong. And these are some pretty funny posts related to that as well. And that is kind of how my channel started. It wasn't because I wanted to like help the community or like really even wanted to be a content creator in general. I literally did this just to like prove this guy wrong. So it's really kind of funny how I ended up getting this far just kind of based on that, because people like saw my videos I was putting out, like all these solos, all these cool things I was doing, and it's like, hey, would you ever want to like make a guide about how you're doing this stuff? And like, you know, I was like, sure, why not? So I started like getting into making guides, and you know, I found out I had a really good time and really enjoyed doing that, really enjoyed helping people, and that just kind of was just how the channel started and how I ended up getting this far. So yeah, I don't really have like any kind of like really noble origin story here about how I got into content creation, and I didn't really like start this out with the intention of becoming a content creator or like trying to get into content creation. It just kind of happened, and I just kind of got really lucky, and you know, that just happens sometimes. But I'm really happy that I did now. I had no idea how to make videos back in the day, though. A lot of these early videos are just really bad because I had no idea what I was doing and was just kind of doing it because it was requested of me more than anything. A lot of the information wasn't great. A lot of the quality of the videos was really bad, and you know, 7 years later, I still haven't really learned how to edit very well. That's why I'm just kind of using a lot of reused gameplay footage now and just talking over it, right? So that's kind of how my gameplay guides have always been, just kind of straight to the point. We look at the gameplay and I show you how to make big numbers happen, right? So that's always been one of my favorite styles of video to make anyway, but for any kind of more different style of videos that are not gameplay based, I will try to have better editing in the future, so, you know, maybe we can do better. As far as the game itself, like, and why I really love it now, it's just one of the biggest aspects is, of course, the combat. That's like one of the entire reasons I even have my channel now, is because I really like making videos about the combat and the cool things I was doing with the combat system. And just over time, every single month, they would add updates that would just make it even better and better. Like, we had an update that added more blades, we had an update that added telos, we had an update that added Eye of Shining Justice to Seek, which was a lot of fun to use. We had challenge mode, which added so much extra content to the game and so many cool things you could do with that. We had Shulk and Fiora, we had Elma and the overdrive mechanic that we didn't have. We had Crossette, we had Corvin. There was just so much new stuff that you were always able to just try out and do. And so many new things you could do with the combat system that was just really awesome. And to this day, the challenge mode in 2 at its prime was just one of my favorite things to ever do in this game. At one point, I had like 77 of the 78 records on the leaderboard, and the only reason I couldn't get the 78th is because I just didn't have a specific common blade that would let me get the strategy required to tie that record, which was really sad at the time, but even still, getting 77 out of 78 records was pretty insane regardless, and it was always a lot of fun to do that before weird pause strategies took over to kind of save time on the weird timer in this game, but there was always a lot of different strategies on all the challenge mode missions that used a variety of different blades, which I always thought was really, really cool. And obviously, the system itself is just a whole lot of fun as well. Like, the combat system, just at its core, is just a lot of fun, and that's what really made using all the blades and experimenting with them a lot of fun as well, and just trying to hit those damage caps and getting to the fastest times possible in challenge mode. I really loved auto attack canceling when I discovered that, being able to cancel attacks to get your arts faster. That was really good. I love being able to cancel arts into themselves. That speeds up combat a lot. Using the Berserk pouch items to do that is a lot of fun. Chain attacks are really fun in this game since they're pretty quick, and you can get a lot out of them if you know how to use fusion combos well. There's just so much depth and complexity to what is such a simple looking system on the surface, and it was just so much fun to use. And I really, really love this game's combat. It might still be my favorite in any RPG ever, basically, just because, wow, I really love using basically all the blades. There's just so many cool things you could do in this game, but, you know, I just really love this game. It's just a lot of fun to play, and if they ever made even more new content for it, I would definitely come back to it, just because I just really love it so much, and I probably still will eventually. Making guides on all the blades and trying to find like an interesting use for all of them to kind of make those videos all interesting was a lot of fun as well, and yeah, it just gave me a lot of appreciation for like all the blades in this game, and all the unique things that they can do, even if a lot of them aren't really that balanced at all, and some of them are ridiculously broken. And I really actually do appreciate the damage cap being lower in this game than some other games, because it gives you a lot of interesting strategies with the blades in this game, where you try to like kind of optimize their damage and as much as you can, instead of just having one over-centralizing strategy that one-shots everything. And man, I'm really thankful that the tutorials were bad, because that led a lot of people to discover my channel over the years, and you know, all that support still means a lot to me. I hope the tutorials suck in Xenoblade X Definitive Edition as well, so everyone keeps coming back, right? But yeah, one of my favorite aspects about this system was just all the customization that you could do in the menu, and just kind of optimizing your blades and your setups there, because it really is really satisfying in any RPG just to set up your character and then to see the payoff for that with like big damage numbers if you set them up right. So just being able to do that in this game was one of my favorite things as well, and that's one of the reasons I was able to make such good videos about it as well. So overall, just really, really love the combat of this game. It's one of my favorite aspects of the game. One of the main reasons it's one of my favorite games of all time. Probably my favorite game of all time, even over Xenoblade 3 still, at least right now. Like I said, making these videos is how I kind of got into the community even more as a whole, and the community is really just one of my favorite aspects of this series of games as well, and one of the reasons I do love this series and this game so much. If I didn't have that, I don't even know if I'd like the game quite as much, but yeah, I really do appreciate all the support I've gotten over the years and all you guys have done for me, and just kind of all the comments I get. I always try to read all of them if I can, and I just always really, really appreciate that support, and that is what keeps me making videos. That is what one of the reasons that I just really love these games so much. So yeah, thank you guys for that as well. But on its own, combat would not be enough to make it my favorite game ever. So let's talk about everything else, the story and the characters, and just how I've grown to really appreciate and love them all over the years. So when I first beat Xenoblade 2, I don't know if I thought super highly of the story as much as I probably do now. I did really, really like it a lot. And but I don't know if I was like, I don't want to say old enough, because I was kind of old enough, but I don't know if I was like attentive enough to appreciate it as much as I maybe could have. And at the age I was when I first beat the game, I don't know if I liked some of the characters as much as I could have as well, which maybe kind of contributed to that, especially Rex. Rex is a character I've really grown to appreciate a lot over the past 7 years, especially compared to when I first beat the game, where I didn't really think much of him and thought he was just kind of, I was like 20 at the time, I believe, or 21, something like that, and yeah. I was kind of like, dang, this 15-year-old kid come on, look, we need like mature adult protagonists, right? And like I think I was just in kind of the wrong mindset when I was going through the story of the game the first time for like some of these characters, and like I said, I think I've grown to appreciate Rex a lot more over the years, just because I'm not trying to like find him like an annoying kid anymore. I really appreciate the optimism he has in the story and how he just kind of betters the characters around him and just kind of the impact he has on characters like Pyra, Mithra, and Nia, and how he's able to help them overcome their own trauma and struggles as well. And I really was able to kind of grow to appreciate his coming of age story a lot more, and how he becomes from like a boy to a man over the course of the game. And it is really nice to see the culmination of that payoff as well in Future Redeemed, also when he is a full man there. I mean, but you can still see that he keeps traits of his himself from the previous games. How he's never lost his optimism, how he's still trying to bring people smiles, and how he's just a really still awesome character in general. I really do love Rex a lot. So definitely a really solid main character, and I'm sorry for things I might have said about you when I was a lot younger, Rex. You're actually really cool and awesome. So yeah, I think Rex is definitely one of the heart and souls of this game, and definitely one of the main driving forces of this game. So if you don't like him, maybe you won't appreciate the story as much, because a lot of Xenoblade 2 story is Rex's story of like maturing and becoming an adult, which is one of the big themes and focuses of this game. And then obviously you have the main girl, Pyra slash Mithra, which to be honest, I was one of the people contributing to the really stupid wars. I wasn't really super serious about it even back in the day, but like the waifu wars back in the day, they're definitely a little cringe looking back on them now, because overall I think Pyre, Mithra, and even Nia are all just really fantastic characters. I don't think you can really appreciate Mithra's full character without really taking Pyre into account either. So I definitely had kind of a poor mindset regarding that in the past as well. And if you guys remember the start of this channel, I used to have Mithra PFE. I used to really love her a lot, and I'm not saying that I don't now. She's still probably my third favorite in the game after like Haze, which I'm super biased for, and Poppy, which I just also really love a lot now. But yeah, Mithra, you can't really have her without Pyra, and I do still think she's one of the most defining and important characters in this game, and someone who I do really appreciate very strongly, just for the quality of writing that she has as well. Although I don't know if I like her as much, just because a lot of the weird fans and stuff surrounding her, and Pyra also, but I do still really appreciate her, and still do think she's a really quality character overall as well. And I think them being able to accept themselves because of Rex as well is just a really nice culmination of their arc, and the Numa form is just a really great way to kind of show their growth as a character as well, in a kind of a visual form. And yeah, it is a little weird that I'm thinking about it now, how they like split in the end and kind of seem almost different, but I guess they are kind of, they start as like two personas of like the same type of character, the same and have the same struggles at the beginning, and kind of just grow into their own identities, which I do think is a pretty cool way to handle it. But yeah, it is a little hard to kind of consider them both the same and not the same at the same time sometimes. But yeah, overall, no, I think the two leads of this game are really fantastic the more I think about them. And I guess them splitting did lead to the really funny photo in Xenoblade 3, which some people make fun of, but, you know, I think it's cute, and it's also really funny, so I don't really mind it too much, you know? And yeah, I think they're really fantastic leads for this game, and the rest of the cast is just also really solid as well. I think the character that's in the main cast, I think the least of is probably just Dromar, just because he doesn't really feel like that relevant a lot of the time, but he's still cool. He's still chill. He's still chill, you know? But yeah, I think a lot of the rest of the cast is just really strong. Nia's obviously a big standout. A lot of people really like a lot. Probably definitely the third most popular after Pyra and Nia, or sorry, after Pyra and Mithra. Um, Zeke, people really love Zeke. Although I think if you're one of the people who think Zeke's sort of the main character, you're kind of cringe. But you know, that's fine. I think Zeke is just a fun guy to have as a party dynamic, a really good bro type of character, and just a lot of fun in general. Pandoria is a really cool companion character for him. I think they're really a really nice duo with a great character dynamics with each other. And to me, I think Tora and Poppy are big standouts. I know that Tora is not the most popular Xenoblade character, but I actually do really like Tora a lot. How he looks up to Rex, how he's even younger than Rex, like he's basically like 13 years old, and how he has his kind of own arc, kind of coming to terms with the fact that he can't be a real driver, and how Poppy, just kind of being an artificial blade, is still able to kind of surpass blades in her own way and just kind of become better than like real blades just by the strength of the bond that Tor and her have in each other. And I think I actually do really like the Cutie Pie side quest for that as well, just kind of showing that culmination of that growth and like the culmination of that character arc. And also, Cutie Pie just has a really good design and is also really fun to use. It's like the best blade in the game, so maybe I have some bias there as well. But I think Poppy is just a really good character. I think the scene she has in the beginning of Chapter 7 with Rex is just really good. Honestly, there's just so many really fantastic character moments in this game. But yeah, I really love Tora and Poppy. I know the Tora part might not be a popular opinion, but I do really like that guy. And even if you want to make fun of the maid robot stuff and all that kind of stuff, Tora's still a kid, so it's fine. And like sometimes you're gonna have the weird anime humor, but I don't think it really detracts from like the quality of their character arcs. And yeah, Tora's a Napon. Maybe that kind of makes you think of him not as seriously, but I still think Tora and Poppy are just really fantastic overall. I'm probably not as big on Morag and Bridget as some other people might be, but I do think they're a solid presence to have to the main party, and I think having a more serious character that has some involvement in the politics of the world does make for a good party dynamic with like the party, and just kind of adding that extra dimension of lore as well. So that's really cool. Um, and while this is focusing mostly on Blade Xenoblade 2, I do have to say the Tornacast is fantastic. Well, Hayes is obviously my favorite ever. I am definitely very biased for her, and I have a type, but I still do really love Hayes. Laura and Jin are obviously fantastic as well. Minoth is really cool in that game. I really love Adam in that game. It's just that they're just really solid characters all around in that game as well. And I do think Torna as a whole really gave me even more of appreciation for Xenoblade 2 as a whole, because it really does complete the experience and kind of complete the story of both games. So just having that there is just really nice to kind of enhance Mythra, give you that backstory, enhances Bridget and Aegeon, especially because he doesn't have anything in the main game, but still, it is nice to kind of get to know those characters more as well, and just kind of have that full backstory and just kind of the full picture of Xenoblade 2, because it does make Jin such a fantastic character as well, since he's like the shining and crowning antagonist of the game. And well, you also have Malos, and Malos is also really good, especially the voice acting in English, and just kind of knowing his purpose and role in the world. But yeah, the antagonists in 2 are also really awesome. I really love Jin and Malos. I think the rest of Torna is pretty nice. Mikhail especially is also really good. Petroka and Akos, Petroka's definitely the weakest of them, but I still think she has a really sick design at least. And Akos is pretty cool and has some really funny lines for the moments he appears as well. Like, I really have no complaints about the main Xenoblade 2 cast at all, and I also really like a lot of these side blades that don't get much content. I think there a lot of the blades have their own really interesting side quests that go along with them to kind of flesh them out and make you care about them more. So I do appreciate that as well. Like I said, I really love Crossset. She's probably and Cassandra. They're probably my favorites, I would say, of the additional blades. If we're not counting like Cosmos and Telos, but those are like guest characters basically, so I'm not going to include them. But yeah, I really do appreciate those characters as well, and just kind of I grew attached to a lot of the side blades just over the course of playing the game and just kind of using them in combat as well. So yeah, I have a lot of attachment to just Xenoblade 2 characters in general because of that. But yeah, the cast of Xenoblade 2 is one of the reasons that also just makes me really appreciate the story a lot more, because just having good character dynamics and just kind of good character writing can really enhance the quality of a story a lot. And that's one of the reasons Xenoblade 2 is probably my favorite story of the Xenoblade games, at least now. And for the people that say that Xenoblade 2's story and narrative kind of has a slow start, I don't know if I agree with that. Chapter 1 actually has a lot of really hype moments that kind of introduce the world and the story really well. And like, I think going back, it's one of those games you go back to and kind of like look at the story again. It only gets better. It's one of those things where the foreshadowing makes a lot more sense. You're able to appreciate a lot more moments as you go through the game again. It's definitely one of those that I think gets better on replay. But Takahashi's really good at doing that. Most of his games I think get better on replay as far as story-wise. The only ones I didn't really think more of is like Xenoblade X, really, but that's just a kind of special case with the story not being as good because of other limitations that kind of led to that. But, maybe Definitive Edition will fix a lot of the issues with that, right? But yeah, I actually think Chapter 1 of Xenoblade 2 is really good. Chapter 2 is maybe a little bit slower, but there's still some pretty decent moments in there to, like, show Rex and Pyre bonding with each other, and, like, the Nia kind of getting accepted into the group as well is a really good moment, and it's also the introduction to Tora. So that's really cool. Chapter 3 is really good, actually. I think Chapter 3 is awesome. Vandam is just a really good mentor character in general, I think, who really serves his function in the game's narrative very well, and I really think the final scene that involves him and the introduction of Mythra is probably one of the best scenes in like any game ever, and that fight there is also really good for just kind of showcasing that as well. So I really think that is a really good chapter overall, and I don't understand any kind of the hate for the first half of the game when you have stuff like that. Now, Chapter 4 is probably the weakest overall, especially if you're not really invested in the Tora family plotline, and the Abandoned Factory section is definitely not the greatest, but and the Rock side quest is definitely the weakest part of the game story-wise in general, so I can definitely kind of see the issues with that part of the game, but I still think it's fine. It gets you more into the party. It gives cutie, or sorry, Poppy an update to the QT form, so that's cool. And yeah, I don't think it's too terribly bad. It's not anything that's going to ruin the game. And everything from Chapter 5 onward is just straight peak after peak after peak, if you ask me. So, like, Chapter 5 onward is just awesome in just pretty much every way. I don't really have any complaints with the story after that, except maybe a little Bana side quest in Chapter 6 with Giga Rosa. That part's a little wacky, but outside of that, I think the entire game after that is just peak. I really love the Masters and Slaves speech that Jin gives into the end of Chapter 5. That entire section is awesome. The Haze stuff in hindsight in that chapter is also really, really good after you experience Torna and just kind of see why Jin did that, how he was freeing her. Oh man, it's really heartbreaking stuff. Man, Chapter 7 is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic chapter. One where you don't have access to Pyra and Mithra because they get taken. I think that chapter is really, really good. Just the beginning scene of that chapter is awesome, where Rex is about to give up and he has to get kind of motivated by everyone again. Yeah, there's so many good and touching emotional scenes there that I think are fantastic. Just kind of thinking back on them again, and it leads to not one but two transformation scenes. We got the Neo one in the Spirit Crucible, which is fantastic. Leads to the really funny meme Rex line, but you know we got some really good payoff for that later in Xenoblade 3, so I guess it's fine. And of course, you had the Numa transformation at the end of that chapter, which was also really, really good. A good transformation scene can save everything. This is what I learned from mecha anime and other anime in general, so you know, good transformation scenes are awesome. Chapter 8 and 9 kind of feel like one chapter, but I really enjoyed the moments in Moritha down there. I really enjoyed the just kind of knowing more about Jin when that moment as well, when that kind of stuff happened, and just kind of learning more about the lore of the world and everything like that. And just the climb with the world tree is one of my favorite moments in like any RPG. Just that final dungeon on the world tree is just really, really good. Just kind of how it lasts for like 3 overarching chapters, and it just feels like really cool the entire time. And you got the motif playing, man, and it's really, really good. And beginning of chapter 10, no one's ever gonna forget that. That's the cutscene that changed everything, as some people would say, right? It's where it connects Xenoblade 1. It's where it shows the literal Zohar, which probably connects Saga at this point. And you might have popped off for one or both of those things if you played it for the first time after playing one of those games. It's a really, really cool cutscene, just kind of thinking back on it. It's definitely one of the most iconic in the entire series, and if not the most iconic cutscene in the entire series. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever forget anything like that. I think the only time I ever popped off harder was the Vector Radio and Future Redeemed and tearing the Dmitry Yuriev name drop. It's just whenever they do those big connections, I feel like they just do it in such a really perfect way in this series. It just makes you super hyped for everything to come by, and I think that's just the strength of the writing and the lore that the series has that just makes you care about that stuff so much and just wanting to see that kind of stuff, right? Maybe I'm just one of those soy jackers that's really excited for Marvel Cinematic Universe type stuff where you just combine everything. But you know, I really it works in this series. You know, it just makes me happy and hyped in this series. You know, so I don't even mind it. I don't mind it at all. So yeah, that cutscene's really, really awesome. I really love the connections there and how they kind of incorporated other games there. And the rest of Chapter 10 is just absolutely phenomenal. Fantastic conclusions to character arcs, fantastic finale to the game. The final fight with Malos is fantastic. Rex talking about punching Malos and having a drink afterwards. It's so peak. It's so peak, dude. And yeah, the Salvager's Code is also really peak. I have to mention that as well. Rex is so good, man. Rex is so good. My first time playing through the game, the ending almost broke me because I was really attached to Mithra at the time as well. So just kind of thinking that they were gonna die was just really upsetting to me at the time as well. So I'm really glad the post-credit scene kind of went back on that and just kind of gave you a really good ending that just kind of felt really satisfying and earned. And yeah, it still remains a really good execution of that ending. That even if it was kind of stolen from a different game in the series in some ways, it's still a really good execution of that kind of type of ending overall that I really, really enjoy. So yeah, And who could forget Torna, since we're still talking about story? The Torna story, even though it's only like a little 2 to 3 hours long. It's still really, really well executed for a prequel story, especially. It gives you a lot of appreciation for Laura as a character, gives you a lot of appreciation for the stuff Mithra went through, and everything involving Jin and Malice in that is really good as well. Learning about the backstory of Jin, how he kind of came to become who he was, and everything like that. Man, the writing is just so impressive when you like delve into it more and like really start to appreciate it. And it's really sad that there's a lot of people who just kind of dismiss Blade 2 for being anime, because I really do feel like it has the strongest writing of the Blade games, just really easily when you really delve into it and really appreciate the characters and the complexity that goes into so many of these characters. Like, this would probably easily be my favorite, like, narrative cast duo, if not for Xenosaga, just because it's just really strong on both of those fronts and just really makes me appreciate the game a lot more. And, yeah, it really just goes to the strength of Takahashi that you can have two things that just kind of make me really think about them, and to this extent, for this longer a period of time over the course of so many years, and just really, really appreciate just all of it. Like, it's really awesome. Yeah, I really love this game. I really love the series, and like, yeah, I think Xenoblade 2 is just a big reason why, and the community especially that's also really, really passionate about these games is also another huge reason why. I can't really delve into all of those complexities and all the little nuances here, but there's a bunch of people who made a bunch of videos on those. Like, we got lore experts like Lux, and we got character and analyzers. We got a bunch of people in this community always making really quality content for the series, and that's something I also really appreciate about the community and fandom that we've got here. Um, as far as other aspects of the game, the art style has grown on me over time, even though I used to call it an anime art style and kind of look down on it. It's really grown over me over time. I really like the way this game looks. The OST is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite OSTs in any game ever. I really love the usage of all the music. I really like a lot of the songs in this game. Like, there's really no complaints as far as that's concerned. I really love all the Torna songs as well. Those are really, really good. I really love the Torna songs. The battle theme, the area themes, Oresco, they're all so, so fantastic. I also really love how at the point the game released, it just felt like a really big celebration of a lot of what came before it when they added all the content to the game. You had Shulk and Fiora, who had mechanics from their games. You had Elma, who added Overdrive to the game, just kind of a celebration of that. Coast also felt like a pretty good representation of Xenosaga with the quest, and what Telos added as well. Like, there was a lot of love put into this game, even if it was not the most polished when it first came out. I feel like there's just a lot of love and care put into, like, just this game as a whole, and I really appreciate it for that as well. It's a shame it'll forever be like an 83 on Metacritic, because I think it just deserves much higher. Because it's my favorite game, and I don't think there's any faults in it. It's just the perfect game, And yeah, anyone who says otherwise, they're wrong. You should tell them they're wrong, because Xenoblade 2 is just that awesome. So yeah, if you ever see someone bringing up pyro design as a reason this game is bad, or like posting a picture of Dahlia, you can just tell them they're a loser, because they deserve it. This game had a really positive impact on my life overall. I don't even know where I'd be in life if I didn't like start this channel and just make a bunch of content on it, and just make a bunch of content on Xenoblade in general, and just kind of get to this point. So that's also another reason I'm just gonna forever appreciate it for that, and why it'll probably be hard for it to ever really truly be knocked from like my place on the as my favorite game of all time. Maybe if we got like a really, really good Xenosaga remaster that just kind of covered all three games and everything like that, but otherwise I think Xenoblade 2 is just gonna be really, really hard to beat at this point, and that's okay. I mean, it's one of those games that's always going to be like a life-changing experience to me, and something that just really impacted me very heavily and just kind of led me to meet some of my best friends. So I'm really, really thankful to the game for that. And yeah, it's something that I'm really grateful to everyone that has supported me over the years as well, because I feel like it has definitely positively impacted my life just to be able to do this and just make these videos, and I'm really looking forward to doing more. I know I haven't been the most active on my channel over the years, and there's been a lot of periods of inactivity if I've been busy with other things or just not felt motivated. But I still really appreciate just being able to make videos on these games when I can, and I'm definitely going to be trying to make a lot more in the coming months as Xenoblade X gets closer. So please look forward to that. They'll hopefully be better edited than this one, but sometimes I do what I can, and I didn't have a lot of time before I had to leave for a trip when I was making this, so didn't have time for the best editing. But I hope you appreciated and enjoyed this discussion video regardless. And you know, it's always nice to reminisce and talk about Xenoblade 2, right? So I do appreciate you for supporting me and watching this video all the way through regardless. I think that is going to cover it for me, though, because it's getting a little bit hard to talk since I'm still a little sick right now myself. But maybe next year I'll make a 5-hour long retrospective about why this game is the greatest ever, like all the real YouTubers do, and it can be super well edited or something like that. If you did get this far, thank you all for watching, and here's to another 7 years of Xenoblade 2 and to this franchise as a whole. And look forward to Xenoblade X content when that comes out in a couple months, because I am as well, and I hope for those playing for the first time you enjoy just as much as I did when I played it for the first time in 2015. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you back here soon.